Welcome back to my budget deck channel. Today with a little bit of a, you can already see it, if you're looking for a super highly mega competitive Endymion deck profile, this is probably not going to be it. This is more of a, try to focus more on the budget kind of side of spell counters. It's more say that to be a spell counter deck than necessarily an Endymion deck profile. You see a few Endymion cards, I guess that's what they were meant to be, but it's more of a spell counter kind of deck actually than Endymion, and there's a lot of weird choices that probably you wouldn't do in competitive play. Plus, about the budget fact, if you look at the extra deck, it looks kind of expensive to a certain extent. It's not going to be super expensive. You don't know yet what this card is going to be price wise in the end, but I feel like mostly the cards are quite with the reprints quite achievable, and it is a deck that maybe you can bump down stuff like Spellbook or Fate to 2 if it gets too much, or if you already have some of the cards and you just want to play this as a little fun thing at the side, or like tweak it but still kind of facilitate the spell counter thing. That's my go for it. You can see with a lot of cards like Dark Ruler No More or maybe the Garuda and stuff, that this deck is meant to kind of go second as well, because first of all, I kind of want to utilize a lot on the Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic, one name. It's stuff like this. So I feel like you have a lot of plays. You can do a lot of stuff with the Cerberus as well, getting his attack up, breaking your opponent's board. I feel like this is quite strong, but you don't run any hand traps, so you kind of are up to just trying to have a lot of plays against your opponent. Can be quite problematic in a sense, since you don't run hand traps. That is another point where this deck is probably not going to be super viable competitively. I mean, you can definitely take some wins home because it's not super bad. Plus, it has a lot of go first plays as well. For example, you don't have to play triple Beast King Jackal, but if you get him out, that's always a very safe negate. Plus, he generates a lot of spell counters. Also, I don't really want to banish him out of Paw of Desires. But let's start right into the deck profile. I'll talk about my choices. On triple Mystical Beast Master Cerberus, because with himself you can get him out basically by getting the King Jackal and then special summoning him. He is pretty good at breaking your boards. He generates a lot of spell counters, so that can be helpful for certain cards like the Sorcerer Supreme Master of Magic guy as well, because, well, you know, he needs spell counters to break boards. So I felt like this card was pretty near 3. You don't have to, but I feel like it helps the deck a lot. Triple him because he's a scale. He's also has a good scale effect, and if you pendulum summon him out or a special summon on other ways with the Servant, for example, that card isn't too bad either. I've run double Empress of Endymion. Could bump it down or up either to 1 or 3 if you want to, but I felt like 2 was quite a neat ratio actually, because the effect on board isn't too bad. You can target one card your opponent controls and one card you control with a spell counter, return that opponent's card and your card to the hand, and it's just like one card. It's not even a monster, so technically you could take another card, which I'll talk about in a second as well while I run the card. Mythical Beast King Jackal, I feel like it's quite neat when you get him on the board first turn because of the negates. It generates spell counters quite easily. Plus, I feel like having another body on board isn't too bad as well. It negates during your turn are as important, I feel like, these days, the negates during your opponent. So maybe not as, but you know, plus getting one out after you kind of broke your opponent's board a little bit, and then stop him from coming back can be essential as well. I really hope this deck doesn't get hit by the banners anyway. Don't see it yet because there's not any, there's just a few tops, but nobody has won anything yet with that deck, I think, so I feel like should be fine. Garuda, another bounce. I think it's quite neat. You don't have to play it, but I felt like this card kind of does things, so I felt like including it since it's a spell counter focus deck. I kind of wanted to. Double the Magister of Endymion. You can play 3 if you want to. It's a high scale. You can special summon cards from the extra deck, which doesn't have to be Endymion, which is nice, but isn't coming up super often since you're not relying super heavy on Electromite, but it can be helpful with Electromite, so I feel like including this card does make sense. Servant of Endymion, one of the big playmakers, getting cards out like your Endymion, the Master Magician, whatever kind of thing. Feel like that in general is good. Plus, it's a 1-card Electromite if you want it to be, then that works as well. Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, because you don't really have any normal summon monsters. This is your normal summon brigade with a 55 card deck, 54 card deck. I felt like you could run multiple cards that you could normal summon. You could bump this down to 2 or up to 2 or 3 if you want to as well, because this card is better than you'd think. The Spellbook Magician of Prophecy kind of neat, gets your whole Spellbook combo going, and Spellbooks are quite neat in spell counter decks. I felt like this card is In the Pendulum Zone, a little bit of a two-edged sword. You can use it to actually get spell counters on, which can be quite nice, but the problem is you have to have no other cards in your Pendulum Zone, so that only works for cards that are already on the field. So this is like either a very late kind of thing if you already got your Endymions out of the zone, which you can, so this card works sometimes, but it doesn't help you getting counters in for the servants unless you're only missing one and you just can place it down and then use its effect afterwards. So I felt like the effect can be quite nice, but when the monster effect is you can remove 3 spell cards from your field and tribute this card special summon one mythical beast effect monster from your deck. So another way to get your Beast King Jackal out either first turn or second turn. So I feel like this card is a little bit underrated. I think it does more than people believe in. So I feel like running this card at 1 or since it's searchable a little bit, but I could bump it up to 3 if you want to. Double Spellbook Knowledge could play 3, but since you can only resolve it once per turn and there's enough ways to search it out, I felt like 2 was fine. 1 Spellbook of Power, just add another Spellbook name. 1000 attack points can help with OTK, especially going second. Recycling Spellbooks, not too bad. 1 cheese card, not sure if you have to play it. I don't think it's really all that important, but I feel like hidden spell counters, especially with the mythical beasts, are quite easy to acquire. And then if you nuke your opponent's side of the field and just OTK him straight with the Master Cerberus and stuff, can be quite neat. So I had to include it in a Spellcounter deck. Hope that is fine. Triple Paw of Desires. You have a lot of stuff you don't want to banish, but since you have with this deck a lot of 1 or 2 card combos, you can just use that as a last resort kind of thing. If you want to extend your hand, extend the combos a little bit, get 1 last spell counter and hope you don't banish anything really useful. This card has barely screwed me over too much, so I feel like this is totally fine. Triple Spell Power Control. I feel like the card is pretty good. You can search the Citadel of Endymion, you can search any other kind of Endymion monster, which is pretty good. Put some spell counters on board. All in all, a good search card. Dark Ruler No More, since you are going second and combo decks can screw you over. With your draw power in this deck, you might draw into this card at one point if the opponent doesn't stop all of your effects before. That's the obviously problem with not running any hand traps, but yeah. This is one of the cards that help you generate spell counters as well, so there you go. That's why I don't play Nibiru. You could play Nibiru in the deck as well. It's not going to hurt you too much. Spellbook of the Master, kind of neat. It's not always super useful since you have to have a spellcaster monster, so you kind of have to do it at the end of your plays a little bit, and so if you don't have enough spell counters, that can be annoying. But other than that, this card is pretty neat. One of Eternity, because with Spellbook of Fate, you banish quite a lot, and recycling them can be quite strong. Terraforming to search the field spell and get more spell counters. Spellbook of Secrets, search in anything Spellbook like. Triple Mystical Space Typhoon. You can run Cosmic Cyclone as well if you want to, but I just felt this card has a more nostalgic flair and it can help you sometimes with getting spell counters on to the board if you want to. Mythical Bestiary, I don't know how to pronounce this card. Well, a card that I've recently seen a deck profile. I feel like this card has been underrated for a little bit in those kind of spell counter decks because it generates to up to 2 spell counters, which can be quite nice, which nearly is already, I guess with activation of this card, is 3 spell counters just in 1 card, which I think is crazy if you want to actually rely on the Servant or Magister or whatever kind of effects. So I feel like instantly getting 3 spell counters on can be super strong. Other than that, yeah, you know, I think it's good. You could play it at 3, but you can only use it once per turn, so don't have to, but I feel like could play if you wanted to. Spellbook of Wisdom to protect your spellcasters can be quite neat. There's some decks that run spell cards, run trap cards, you know, unaffected completely by other spell effects, which should work technically for stuff like Dark Ruler No More, so don't sleep on that. I guess if you're going first, that's more helpful than going second. I mean, trap cards are a thing though, so in the end, Spellbook of Wisdom can come in handy. Triple Spellbook of Fate, one of the more expensive cards in the main deck. You could get it down to 2 if you want to, or even to 1 since it's searchable, but don't want to rely on the searching effect too much. You kind of want to draw into it sometimes as well. I think it's a nice removal, and don't sleep on this card. It's quite strong. Yeah, 1 Spellbook Starhole is the card I was talking about earlier in combination with Empress of or Reflection of Endymion. if you're talking about TCG names, because it can generate spell counters as well. So this is a card that you can bounce back to your hand as well if you don't want to lose your field spell with probably a lot of counters. This one probably not have as many. Plus, it's a go second deck. So generating spell counters with the whole like spellbook engine and going before the OTK. I mean, you'll probably get up to like 500 or 300 to 700 to more attack. Well, that onto like 3 or 4 monsters can make the difference in the end. Plus, it's a card that you can still get rid of with like Spellbook of Knowledge, that you can still get rid of with the Reflection, take spell counters from, and so on. So I feel like this card as another spell counter generator wasn't too bad. 1 grand Spellbook Tower. The card isn't bad. You could play 2 of them as well. You can search it with terraforming as well. It's neat, but it takes a little bit longer to actually kick in. Plus, you won't be able to get that many spellcasts into the graveyard besides your Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. I like the card, but you don't really necessarily have to play it. Adds another name to the deck as well. Magic Citadel of Endymion, well, you get a lot of spell counters, helps you with all of those kind of things, gives a little bit of protection to itself. It's not too bad. Extra deck, those kind of cards are just for if you decide to run Super Poly, which you could, which I have not included yet, since first of all, losing a hand card already, like discarding a card, can be quite annoying in the deck. Second of all, not sure if this card is going to go down to 1 or to 0 at one point, so I felt like this is just because you don't need much of the extra deck. I'm telling you that much. You just need some link zones, and that's about it. The other cards are basically there for cosmetics, so you have that neat little 15 down here. And yeah, other than that, that's just bumping up the price if you want to keep a full extra deck, but you can play basically whatever you want. Running the Odd Eyes engine, you have 5 level 7s in the decks, not coming up too much, but it could come up. Phantom Knights of Breaksword and so on, rank 3s. You have level 3 monsters, 5 again, so that's another one of those, but I guess they can special summon each other a little bit, whatever. There's things. Definitely include 1 or 2 Link Force, because Link Force come up sometimes because you can flood the field. And if you want to push for game, Ball Sword is quite nice. Borlow to break certain boards in a sense is quite nice as well. Metaltron, if you really have a way to get the zones out, which is quite hard, but if you really want to, then that card can be quite neat. Decode Talker, just a generic Link 3. Heavy Metal Force Electromite is a nice card in general, especially in Pendulum decks, but this deck doesn't heavily rely on it. Sometimes it's actually more worth to go into Crowley, because getting the Spellbook engine going, if you haven't even normal summoned yet, and so on, there's a lot of things that you can do with Crowley, so I feel like this card deserves more of a mention than Electromite in this deck. Who would have thought that was ever going to happen? Underclock Taker for the OTKs, generic Link 2, as well as Beat Cop if you need those arrows, and for whatever reason you don't have Spellcasters, you're playing against Buster Blade and your monsters aren't Spellcaster anymore, or whatever, then having a generic Link monster is quite neat as well. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile so far. This is just a take on spell counters, don't take it too serious. I know there's a lot of people super meta orientated around, but yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you're into budget deck profiles, then check out my channel. Some of them are cheaper than this, some of them are probably like around this kind of area, but I'm making sure that none of them exceed the like $80 to $100 mark in total. So yeah, stick around for that, depending on, I'll always talk about the price in my videos and this kind of thing, and I hope you have a good day.